but I'm saving the review until we get back from the break so everybody can participate in that. Just a couple of notes. Again, the session went really great on Tuesday. For anybody who has not yet, please record your service hours. Just be honest. And it's one of these things, guys, err on the side of benefiting yourself. If you worked, you think 3 3/4 hours, to me that you worked 4 hours. Is that fair, guys? Awesome. Now, guys, the other thing, too, for the future sessions, for everybody sign-ups, next week I will be emailing everybody who is up for our next couple of sessions and connecting you directly with our U-Work team who's going to take care of getting you oriented and trained. I'll still be on with you. Yes, ma'am?
So do we have anything that, like, activities to do? Or are we just, like, there's going to be a PowerPoint, we need another PowerPoint and show up?
I'm glad you asked that question. The way we're doing this, we do have defined content modules, we've got defined PowerPoints, but we are asking you guys to take a look at them, give us suggestions how to edit them, and come up with some activities as well. For example, there was a lot of improvisation that happened on Tuesday. The activities that we did, I thought, were very, very good and jumped people in. So, for example, I think one of the next couple sessions, we've got a digital literacy, social media one. We've got some interview skills. I forget what the other ones are, but we already got content developed. So we're going to get you in contact with the folks who actually develop that content and get you ready to do it. That makes sense? You guys have other questions? Okay, guys. We left off talking about how all this stuff fits together. So we're going to do a little walkthrough of a job analysis together. Guys, we're going to walk through these steps because this ties directly into the assignment you're going to be doing after break, planning a job analysis. So will somebody tell me, for example, a job that we should analyze? What's a position we might be involved in? And we'll share that, by the way, we'll share that information with Richard at the end of class that he's going to want to know, won't we? All right, because he's here today too. So guys, let's pick a position to analyze. What's a job position we could analyze, guys? The quicker you give me an idea, the quicker we get through the lecture.
Teacher.
Teacher, that's a good one. So are we seeing high school, college, what area?
High school.
High school teacher. What subject?
English.
English. So we have an English teacher. I don't have a pen, but that's okay because we can do this without a pen. Guys, in terms of an English teacher, when we are preparing for the job analysis, we might be thinking, why are we doing this in the first place? What could be a reason for doing a job analysis for an English teacher? Yes? Yeah, so maybe we haven't revised the position in a while. Could there be other reasons? What might be another reason we might be doing a job analysis? So are there conditions involving that teacher in the classroom that are causing that person to have a harder time doing their job? Other indicators could be, for example, if our students' test scores are way below the state average. It could be that the students are not bad, maybe even the teacher isn't bad, but something is getting in the way of doing it. So know why we're doing it in the first place. So we're going to plan the job analysis. The second part of it would be we're going to prepare the job analysis. So how are we going to do this? What resources could we possibly use? So if we were planning a job analysis, we wanted to see what other teachers' duties and responsibilities look like. What might be a source of information on that? I'll give you a hint. We looked at it in class on Wednesday, and it's a website. Oh, absolutely correct. And we're going to walk through each one of these steps in detail. The next is going to be actually doing the job analysis, then revising job descriptions and specifications, and finally, maintaining that step. So let's do this one step at a time, because we are working with an English teacher here. So we're not going to form groups. We're going to do this together, and we're going to use an English teacher. I originally had the idea we would do this in 4 different groups. We're going to do this together as one group, if that's okay with you guys. All right, so we already kind of answered the question, why we're doing this. We're getting some responses from students who are not doing well in their scores. We're hearing that there's too many students in the classroom. There are concerns, and maybe we haven't revised the job description in a couple of years. Makes sense, right? So who should be involved in a job analysis? If we're doing a job analysis of a high school English teacher, that position, who might we want to involve? Yes. Principal, for sure. Yeah, and who else? Superintendent. Anybody else? Yeah, in that situation, you probably have to involve the school board for sure. Anybody else who might want to involve? Students for sure. Is there one other key person who's a big part of this process? Well, HR. I'm thinking the teacher, him or herself too. We're gonna have them involved in the process as well. Why might we involve the teacher themselves in the process? Yes. Absolutely correct. And let's say, for example, we have two scenarios. One where we are telling the English teacher we're doing this, one where it's sprung on them, which is more likely to cause stress. But nobody likes these kind of surprises. Surprises are good when they're birthdays. Surprises are good when you, now, sometimes that's a good or a bad surprise if you find out you're having twins. They're not always good surprises. So that's not a good surprise if you spring a job analysis on someone. So what resources might we have available? What might we already have in our possession that could give us some documentation? Because it's a school, we have an English teacher, what might we already have on file? Yes? That's documentation for sure, absolutely. What else might we have on file? Which would actually count as job specifications. You're correct. And we would also have a job. What other job thing would we have? Begins with a D. Job description. Particularly if you're in, because your point about the school board is correct. The school board goes over curriculum and they do all this stuff. Now, if we're in a public school, there's a pretty good chance the person we're working with is also a member of what? A labor union. That was my labor union karate shop. So they're basically saying they're going to cut you off at the neck if you don't go through the union. We're going to use calisthenics in here today too. So what other things might we use? We talked about ONET, for example. That might be one way to do this. How else might we find out what this teacher actually does in a day of their life? What techniques can we use? We can come in and watch them do their work. What else could we do? Yeah, for sure. We could give student surveys. In fact, in some ways, even though it's a performance evaluation, in some ways, idea evaluations are also a form of job analysis. What could you learn about a classroom by reading some teacher's idea eval? What could you learn about the environment? Go ahead.
If it's a good one, or if it's like a blow up, yeah, or if the teacher like puts like so much pressure on you that you're like nervous to go. Because I know a lot of my high school teachers, that's how it was if you didn't want to go.
Because it was such a miserable experience.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we can also learn, is it a high-pressure experience? Well, you might even get evaluations like this, though. There are so many people in this class, I can't hear myself think. The teacher can't answer my questions. The classroom is disrupted. You can find out about that environment as well. Other forms of documentation. We could go on to ONET and look up English teacher high school. What kind of responsibilities do they have? We could even have the teacher do a diary of their daily interactions. And again, how are we informing employees? I would say directly. Instead of just sending somebody an email on Friday, hey, guess what, Monday we're going to come to your classroom and start a job analysis. What's that person going to be doing all weekend? They're going to be stressed out and probably preparing their resume saying, I think I'm getting fired. So that's exactly why we would inform them ahead of time. So in terms of conducting a job analysis, what we would do at that point, all these tools we selected, we're going to roll them out. We're going to give you a diary. We're going to schedule times to come in and do observations. All these things, guys. How do we determine what are essential job functions and what are marginal? What would show us that something is an essential job function? How would you know if something is a key part of their job or not? Any thoughts? What do you think? Yes? That's exactly right. What percentage of their daily job is spent doing that one task? For example, if all I did in this classroom is, what is Tonka doing in his class all day? Well, karate moves mainly. He's doing karate and ninja moves. And somebody would say, well, that's not really part of his key job description. Either we should put him in a martial arts training program, to turn people's hands into deadly weapons, like mine, they're registered with the state of Pennsylvania as deadly weapons. Or this guy maybe needs some direction. I'm telling you, I can teach everybody in this room how to break a man's skull. I can teach you how to. Has anybody ever been involved in martial arts?
I was in karate for like a hot second. That was really good.
Every one of you in this class could break a man's skull with your bare hands. Okay, stand up. I'm going to show you how.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to show you how.
All of us?
All stand up. I'm not asking you to hit each other, but I'm going to show you how. I'm going to show you how. This is your value added today for showing up for class. All right. Take your legs about shoulder width apart. Okay? A little bit of bend at the knees so you've got some leverage. What I'm going to do is show you how to throw a punch that'll break a board. If you can break 2 boards, you can break a man's skull. You're going to take your fist, make a fist, and pull back like this. Put your other fist out in front of you. When you punch forward, don't hurt yourself doing this. You actually twist your hand like that so you're making contact with these 2 knuckles. These 2 knuckles run the entire length of your arm, and that's where your leverage comes from. The mechanical advantage comes from the twist in your forearm, which gives you greater mechanical advantage. So when you punch, you're pulling one arm back, which is putting shoulder torque in as well, and twisting. So it's like this. You can punch like that, you can break a man's skull. That's your self-defense lesson for the day. So, and if you get it nice snap, that's how it actually works. So anyway, you gotta see that this is the value added you're getting for showing up this late in the day on the last day before mid-semester break. So like, if I wanted to go after Professor Fireball right now, I could, but I wouldn't because I like him. Anyway, how do we determine essential duties? What do people spend the bulk of their time doing? How about this, guys? What's the name of the job? English teacher. You should be teaching English. How much of your time are you spending doing what we paid you to do and hired you to do? Now, when we start talking about job inflation, what does that mean, guys? If people do job inflation, what are they essentially doing? They're puffing themselves up. For example, if I changed my title to Grand Poobah of HR and Karate Studies and came in here to teach today, that'd be like, no, that's not really your title, Mr. Tonkin. It's assistant professor. So we determine essential duties essentially by seeing what people do most of their time. In terms of the job descriptions and specification, there should be multiple people involved in this process. The person doing the job should be involved in the process. Well, guys, think about this. Let's suppose, for example, that any of you in public school or private school have a really, really old teacher. Okay, how old? How old is old? 70s. I remember we had Mrs. Smith whenever I was in school, and she was like old to old people. Like, she was really old. I think she remembers when they were using like quill pens and stuff to write out the Constitution. So somebody who's been teaching that long maybe hasn't been keeping up with the process. So we should have other people involved. Maybe another younger English teacher. I'm not saying youth is always the thing, but somebody who's just out of school might know some things that the incumbent doesn't. So what about the legacy documents? If it has been so long since we've taught English, or since we revised these position descriptions, that we're referring to ditto machines and teletype, then maybe we need to actually update those documents. And here's the thing. Let's say, for example, we realize our English teacher doesn't know how to use a computer, a cell phone, or a fax machine. Well, what happens to the incumbent then if we discover they are woefully out of date with what we actually require once we've updated this stuff? What happens to that person? What could happen to that person? There's really 3 options. Exactly. Give them the opportunity to step it up, especially if it's not their fault. If history passed them by, but they were doing the job just fine. What's at the other extreme? You could lose your job. If we discover, for example, somebody is absolutely just not right for this position, should never have been hired in the first place. Hopefully we can find a humane third option. Can we transfer them to another position where their skills actually make sense? So those are some of the things that happen to incumbents. After that, we're upgrading the job description and the job specification, and we should be doing this at least once a year in most positions. At the minimum, once every 2 to 3 years. Does that all make sense and add up, guys? Yes.
Could, like, say that there's a teacher that doesn't the proper technology, if you fire them, could they sue you?
Age discrimination in employment. That's an excellent question. Here's the trick. A legal defense to the Age Discrimination in Employment Act is job necessity. So in other words, if you were able to come back and say, I didn't fire this person for being old, I fired them for not being able to perform the job, that would be your legal defense. In reality, before you fire somebody, you should give them a chance to see if they can rehab. How many of you have grandparents who actually can use a cell phone? Yeah, and did you, when they got their first smartphone, did you think, oh God, this is going to be awesome? Some of them work it out. My mother-in-law is like 74. She's like the queen of Facebook, and she can do Photoshop. Like, she does Photoshop. She cannot use an ATM, but she can Photoshop her grandchild's head onto a dog. Like, how does this work? I think it's selective learning, actually. But other questions, guys. And here's the other trick. Once your mother-in-law gets on social media, or your father-in-law, or whatever, your whole life changes. So, guys, this is just a reminder how this all fits in. For the assignment that's due when you guys get back, don't worry about it right now. I'm asking you to tell me how you're going to do a job analysis on a custodial position here at St. Francis, and I even provided you a copy of that job description. That's what you're going to be doing. You're welcome to do it over break, but it's something that won't take you that long to do. So, other questions, guys? About anything?
I have one, actually.
Yes.
So, Kate Labriola sent me an internship, please. And she said there's one for Flying Dog Brewing Company in Frederick, Maryland.
Awesome.
And in their job description, like...
You had me at Flying Dog Brewing. So keep going.
let's see. In part of it, it said that you have to, like, enjoy beer and, like, drink their products. So, like, if I were to apply for that and I'm gluten intolerant, is that, like, discrimination if you don't hire me?
I think it probably could be, unless they are able to say it is a BFOQ. For example, if somebody had a job as a wine critic, and their job is to taste and evaluate wine, and they are allergic to the actual product that they have to test, I think it's a pretty strong employer argument to say that's a BFOQ. So I would say, and when they say that, here's the reason why they're asking it, is so you can make recommendations to patrons. I wouldn't say that you shouldn't apply for the job. You might still be able to get into a position like that, because that's a lot of corporate mumbo jumbo too.
Because it's, like, for an event coordinator.
I think you could probably build a case for getting in there as well. And I think if they did come back at you and say it's absolutely essential that the beer knowledge is that important, I'd say they have an argument for BFOQ, but I think they still consider you.
They actually seem pretty funny. Like, on their job description, like, has cuss words.
Wow. Well, they actually have, some of their beers have cuss words in them.
Yeah.
They have a beer, it's a Belgian IPA, it's called Raging. Yeah. So I fully support you getting this job, because I'd like to come down and get discounts on their food.
Do a show with Frederick. Oh, Frederick.
Perfect. Great question. Other questions, guys? Do you understand what I'm asking you to do on the assignment? Okay. What we're going to finish off class with today is something very relaxing, and it's cool, and it's only about 8 minutes long.